good afternoon, wherever you may be. And welcome, welcome, welcome. I greet you with blessings for all, healing to all. I am your intrepid host, David Null, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers. So I wish to say hello, good evening. This is Tuesday evening at 10:53 Eastern Daylight Time down here in Southwest Georgia. So now that greetings are achieved and blessings sent to all. Um, as many of you may know, may not know if you just started on my channel, um, I have topics of discussion that come in from time to time, and it's like I sometimes I don't know when I'm going to have a session or do a live stream or something. When the idea comes in, um, as I often use, I get a cattle prod in the rear end, to like go online and start a video and do your thing and have this discussion. And a lot, there's sometimes here recently where I'm like, but you give me three words, actually two words, and say, okay, Dave, now you're going to do a video on what? Well, it's supposed to be, I got it wrote down here and I can barely see it. I hate wearing my glasses when I do this, but about intent versus purpose. And it's like, well, now what the dickens does this mean for now? So I'm having my meditation earlier today and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Intent versus purpose. What does this mean? Well, a lot of us have been talking about the Lionsgate um, opening, and it's going to be in the morning at about 5:15, 5:20 Eastern Daylight Time, and which means 4:20 my time. Anyway, inside joke. But I was meditating this afternoon and looking out the window and not seeing any chemtrails, for example, going, wow, this is just kind of weird. And the sky was kind of the right kind of blue, and the clouds look like clouds. And this has been going on for a while. So, but anyway, so I get this thing, and I'd written it down. I don't know when, but then it got brought back up to me. It's like you need to talk to people about what intent versus purpose means, and because there might be some folks out there who like don't really get it. And I understand it, but now here's the trick. I get to try to explain it to you. Okay, here we go. All right, so for example, in the my description of this video, it's like we all have a purpose. Well, some of us anyway. I know when I was a young buck and running around, my purpose was to provide for my family, work two jobs, whatever it took, and that was my purpose in life was to, have a family, have children, and that was my quote purpose. Now, one might say, so, but that was also your intent, right, Dave? Well, yes, in a way. My intent was to have a family, okay. But as my life's journey, my purpose as my life was to have children, grandchildren, and be a loving person. So that was like my purpose. Now, so then I got this little weird, you know, mechanical kind of reference. And it has to do with a half-inch wrench. Just bear with me. A half-inch wrench. A half-inch wrench has a purpose, but its purpose is only for bolts or nuts that are of half-inch size. If you try to put it on a smaller nut, the hole will just be too big. So it has a purpose. But now that wrench, that half-inch wrench, has a purpose simply because it's a tool and it's a half-inch size. However, it doesn't have intent because it's a tool. It just lays there. So for those of us in this world, we're looking around, and I know I searched for my purpose for a long time. But what the hell am I doing here? Why am I on this earth? Why didn't I die 5 years ago when I was down on the river? This is sort of an anniversary for me right now. My big time heavy duty 3-day spirit walk is 5 years today. Or wait a minute, it ended today. It ended on the 7th, 5 years ago. All right, and about the same. It's weird because back then it was over a weekend and I came out on a Tuesday, which is about this time of night right now when I got off the river. Then I got stuck in the sand under the bridge and it took me another 6 hours to dig myself out, but that's another story. At least I was off the river and back to my truck. Me and my little dog Sasha. So our intent is what we focus on. So I wanted, my purpose was to get a good job, provide for my family. My intent was to become a very good machinist. My intent was to become an engineer. My intent was to be able to draw 3D things in the manufacturing business. So that was my intent. All right. What does this got to do with like 5 o'clock in the morning here, Eastern Daylight Time? And there's going to be a mass meditation. And a lot of folks are like, well, what does this mean? Well, the Lions Gate opens up and it's like a yearly type event. When it's a cosmic kind of deal, and it's when our spirits can be yanked off this planet and go to that higher plane. It's also when nasty entities can get yanked off this planet forever and for good. And so this particular meditation, and I started this afternoon. I was like, okay, this is Tuesday. It's going to happen in a few hours. I'm starting my meditation now. My intent is to keep my focus for the next 6 or 8 hours. Let's see what time it's 11 o'clock Eastern Daylight. Okay, so I got 6 hours to go before the roughly 6 hours to go before the mass meditation begins. But I want to prep it. My purpose here on this channel is to talk with people and discuss esoteric kinds of things. But my intent is to help us all achieve this goal. Okay. So purpose versus intent. All right. My purpose to have a YouTube video or videos is to try to bring other things to light. My intent is to try to be the best communicator that I can. Are you understanding that there is a difference there? It's subtle in a lot of ways because I can use the idea of I can use the idea of a 1/2-inch wrench, and it has a purpose, but it doesn't have intent. It's I can use. All right, sorry about that. I forgot to open up the. I forgot to open up the chat room. Hang on just a second here. Marie, I say hello. iStation Z, hello. Melanie Weisler, hello. Denise Marie, 33, hello. Good evening, all. Nice hair. Yeah. I need to run it through the wash machine, though, here this evening. I've been outside trying to pull weeds and things, and I don't know how I get stuff stuck in my hair. I guess because it's just so long, but even though I keep it a ponytail. But anyway, good evening, everybody, or good morning, depending. So it seems to be really important that my galactic message or my Mother Mary message or higher being message, whatever that might be, has to do with the fact that we understand that we all have a purpose and we all do certain things. And hi, Marie. But when we focus our intent, so it's like today, tonight in the morning, my purpose is to meditate. Okay. But my intent with the meditation is to focus on one particular thing, and that's peace, or to get rid of these blue meanies off of this planet once and for all, and to help clear the collective consciousness, if you will, and get rid of some of these crazy people. Actually, it's not the people, it's their spirits that are nutso and whacked out. But we all kind of understand that. Here's some fresh coffee to y'all. Now, a lot of people are having difficulty with having any type of meditation. The energies are going off the chart. Here, earlier today, I checked the Schumann resonance, and it's on the slow side. It's there, it's still spiking, but it's on the slow side. So, in a way, we're kind of in a lull. Now, this energy that we're going to be focusing on here in just a few hours has to do with peace and love, harmony. And that should be our intent. The purpose of the meditation is so we can focus our intent. So, folks, I know my age, we're like, some of us have been tossed out of our, me being an engineer. I just knew I was going to retire at 65 as an engineer, and that didn't happen. We got kicked out and all our jobs went to Mexico. But to the point, though, there are a lot of us in my age group who are actually wondering, okay, the kids are raised, the grandkids are, if there are any, okay, they're born. Now, what is my purpose? I can go become a greeter at Walmart, which ain't up my alley, by the way. But other people are like, well, but now that I'm 65 or 62, my truck driving friend says, I can't go back out on the road, Dave. What am I going to do? I can't become a truck driver. I used to be an auctioneer, but the young bucks have all taken over, and I can't keep up with them young folk anymore. I'm still a good auctioneer, but I don't have, I don't have the stamina as I did 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. So a lot of folks my age, boomers and so forth, are wondering, do I have a purpose now? Now, in the old days, and, my grandma, she never thought about it. It's like, I'm retired and my purpose is to look after the grandkids, plant me a garden, watch my program in the afternoon, drink a half of old Milwaukee beer. That was like her goal. Now, her intent in life, that was her purpose. I'm here for you, meaning me. And she was there for my sister and brother and, and the rest of the family. And she was there for the neighborhood kids where she finally retired in that neighborhood out near Zephyr Hills. She became grandma to a lot of the other children in the neighborhood. And so she had a purpose, even though it was just like, she wasn't really so much a babysitter as she watched the kids and she loved them. I mean, she'd go out and sit in the lawn while they played in the pool and, and so she participated as much as her age would allow her. And I think grandma made it to the age of 72, which is not bad, But to this point of being, what was was there a larger purpose that Granny had? No. Did that mean that she was useless as a person or as an entity or spirit or being or whatever? Not in my opinion. That was then and this is now. I know so many people younger than me, my age, boomers, older, I'll be 66 in 2 months, roughly. Less than. But anyway, it's not about the birthday. It's about getting old, one more damn year older, I guess. But so I questioned what my purpose was recently. I mean, the last few months, last of year. And then I realized that I did have a purpose, even though my family and so forth they they quietly ignore me because I'm so nuts, and they don't really understand where I'm coming from. And in their paradigm, in their world, I'm too far out there, left or right or whatever you want to call it. Up there, I would prefer. Now, I still love all my family and so forth, but to them, my purpose is over. To them, I'm just an old hippie hermit down here in the woods, and I'm unable to drive much anymore. I'm working on it. But, like this week, I had a dead battery and a flat tire, and, and lots of rain to keep me from fixing either or. So it's like I didn't go anywhere for a couple days. Didn't hurt me. That's not the point. The point is that in a few years ago, even I'd went out in the rain and changed that flat tire. Not now. I'm not into it for whatever reason. There was no emergency, so it could wait. Well, then I waited and then I waited and I still have a flat tire. At least I have the battery on charger, and it's been a week. Shame on me. I've been in the dream world, I guess you could say, walking between worlds. So there are a lot of us, we have a purpose to go to work every day to make the money, to pay the house, to buy the car. That's a purpose. But what is our intent? Our intent is to make a better life. Our intent is to better ourselves. What is our intent? Well, over the last 20 years, 98, 99, 2000, when 2000 hit and we jumped up in processing speed with computers and cell phones took off and all of these other types of things, we also started distancing ourselves from each other. It's now a text message. It's now a selfie and then forwarded to somebody. It's not a phone call generally. It's a text message. It's an email. It's something like that. Personal touch, one-on-one, person to person, is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And we all know it. We all see it. We're blind not to see it. And a friend of mine says, well, I would text you if you had a cell phone. And I'm like, but I can't afford a cell phone. Well, but your computer, your Chromebook doesn't allow SM, whatever the deal is. And I'm like, but you can spend 30 minutes bitching me out for not having a cell phone and being able to text you. But at the same time, you can't take 3 minutes to go, hi, Dave, you okay? Need anything? Love you. We're all fine on this end. Love you. Bye. That takes too much time. And it's almost like people, it's almost like it would kill them to talk to another person, especially a family member. Now, in my thinking about this, I wonder, I'm like, is it guilt maybe that some of these younger folk, my kids, they're in their mid 40s, and, other people that I know, they refuse to pick up the phone and call anybody. I'm not going to go into the family thing, but, I haven't gotten a call from either of my children or grandchildren or any other. I get a call from my brother and my sister once in a while, one in Florida, one in Ohio, and they check up on me. And that I love that. But the thing is they're old school. They do it by phone versus a text message. These younger folks, it's like it. I think they would actually think it would kill them to call and just say, hello, I love you. I don't have much time. I'm partying with my friends, but I love you. Now, I use myself because I'm not going to point any fingers at any of my other friends and go, that person doesn't get phone calls. That person is ignored. That person over there, all of these friends of mine, they're being ignored just as much or more. If you get no phone calls or no text messages, how can that be any worse than that? But it is. And that's a real shame. It is a real, honest to goodness shame. Because a lot of those younger folk think us older folk have no purpose. There is no purpose in what I have to offer to anyone. I know all about 3D technology and AutoCAD and drawing and engineering. Yeah, but I'm too old to get a job doing it. But I still have the knowledge. I still have all that information. And a lot of it is still very much valid to this day. I've known how to take cars apart. I've torn engines down, every single piece, and put them back together and had them work and last, by the way. And so I don't know of many young folk these days who would go yank a motor out, underneath a tree with a come along or something and want to take it apart and build it. No, I mean, they don't. And it's like most of the boys, kids, girls in the neighborhoods where I grew up, there was always somebody working on a vehicle, and we were always crowded around. We were always, we learned how to cuss around some of these guys who were drinking beer on Saturday afternoons, and we'd go over and want to watch them pull an engine out of an old Chevy or something, and it's just, I don't see that anymore. People don't do that kind of thing. And it's like we used, they'd sit around and work on a transmission, and 5 or 6 people would come over, and we'd end up having a hot dog cookout or something like that. I mean, it was what we did. It was face to face, people talking with one another, sitting in a chair and having a conversation, building a fire in the evening and sitting around and chit chat. I can't get people together to do that anymore. It's like, what's going on here? And the younger folk just don't care. Oh, well, it's hot outside. Well, in the evening time, it cools off. Oh, but there's bugs. Well, yeah, but there's spray and there's other things. Oh, and all they can do is come up with excuses as to why they can't do it or why it's too tough to have a face-to-face conversation with another person. And it floors me. Now, what does this have to do with intent and purpose? Well, their purpose in life is not the same as us old timers. Now, I do know some folks in their early 30s, late 20s, and it's hard for me to what this one young gentleman that comes by, and I'm just going to call him Bob. He comes by once, maybe twice a month to check on Mr. Dave. He's not a relative. He was just introduced to me as a friend of a friend. And he comes by, we sit and chat. He'll bring a drink. If I'm out of smokes, he'll leave me a couple of cigarettes. He's mowed my yard for free several times and gets pissed off when I try to offer him money. And this guy isn't related. I mean, it's from the kindness of his heart. But the thing is he also is very much aware of what's going on. He's understanding of conspiracy theories, of weather modification, of different things. And so when he comes over, I fill him in on the new stuff, But we recently just had a conversation about religion versus spirituality. And he was saying, but, the Bible and this and that. And I said, yeah, but, he and I have had this conversation before about the Christ consciousness, which a lot of people now are looking around going, I think this Christ consciousness thing is like for real. They can feel it. It's palatable. You can almost taste it in the air because so many people now have changed from just being ugly, nasty bridge trolls to trolling on in chat rooms and things. It's just like the trolls have calmed down. I'm like, what? And there are a bunch of us, I don't know, 6, 8 months, 10 months ago, whatever, a year ago, we started changing our attitude. And rather than argue with the trolls, we'd say, I'm going to pray for you, brother. That's your opinion. I'm going to pray for you, brother. So our purpose with watching some of these things and joining in the chat room, and if I look, it's going to take me off of my subject. So I see it going around, but bear with me, y'all. You know me by now, I think. And I love you all so much. I do. There's 104 subscribers to my channel now. Oh my gosh. Thank you all. But with this intent, it's like, okay, so what is this young man's intent? His intent is to help people, and his purpose in life is to provide for his family. And he's got a newborn just a couple of months old, and but his purpose is to do lawn care and cabinet building and these other things, to work for himself. But he has an intent to work with people. His grandmother lives down the road over here, a couple of miles, but in the country, it's like we're neighbors. And so he stops by to see me. He'll hang out for several hours, you know. I mean, one night I thought I was going to literally have to kick him out. And one night he showed up like 11:30 at night, going, "Hey, dude, you know, let's sit down and smoke one and let's chat." He just needed to have company with an old person. Unbelievable, unbelievable. So it's like, when I thought my purpose was gone, when I thought because of everybody else, Dave, you're too old, you can't go anywhere, you haven't done puppet shows in a couple of years, and it's like, but what? And it's like, but hang on there now, hang in there. I can do a YouTube video. I can do a Facebook video. I can go on Blog Talk, or I can go in a chat room, and I can give my point of view, which is nothing more really than to like hit your brain to trigger you into a thought. Like, well, wait a minute now. Have I ever stopped to think what my intent was versus what my purpose is? Who knows? Some people say, well, what the frick does it matter? Well, you've got that point of view as well. But for those of us who are trying to thread the eye of the needle, if you will, this, in a few hours, we're going to be linked up to this Lionsgate energy-wise. Those people who have the correct frequency are going to be able to receive. And those with lower frequencies simply aren't. Now, it's not about judgment. Now, I know not you folks here in the chat right now, but there are other folks who may watch this, listen to this. It's not about judging. You need to judge yourself. Is your frequency high enough to make it through the eye of a needle? Is your frequency high enough? And I can't make that decision for you. None of us can. It's a simple, in a way, a mathematical thing. When you are kind, considerate, you honor other people, you do these things, that gives you specific frequencies. If you don't do those things, then your frequency stays low. Service to others, service to planet Earth. How many of us, now this got brought up a couple of days ago, then it got brought up tonight in my weekly checkup. And it had to do with, there are so many of us who love Mother Earth and we cherish it and this and that, but how many of us plant a little garden of vegetables? I mean, you can grow them in a pot. You can grow lettuce and spinach in a pot in the house. I mean, but how many of us grow things other than just ornamentals? Now, I got a lot of ornamental plants around my house, and they're still alive. Whereas my garden, I went out to check it earlier today, would get some eggs and feed the chickens and all. And my garden is like weeds up to my head. And that's because I haven't been able to work it in the last month. But unbelievable how many weeds are in the garden. And it was spotless when I started in the spring. I had mulching between the rows. It was beautiful. And now you can't even see the garden. It's just nothing but weeds. That's how fertile the garden is. But I'm going to start, it's time for fall planting. Now, why did I bring planting a garden up? Well, that would be in honor of Mother Earth. If we planted a garden with intent, We plant it with a purpose. The purpose is I'm going to plant a garden, I'm going to have vegetables, but the intent with those plants are that I'm going to feed myself, maybe a friend or a neighbor, fresh vegetables that haven't been processed through any kind of a store or anything. Why is that important? Because it's natural, homegrown, it's yours. You can put the energy into that tomato plant. You can have, with your intent, you can bless the plants as they're growing. So as they grow, they already have a purpose, and that's to grow up, to seed, and pass away. But with their seeds, they are allowed to generate more lettuce or spinach or whatever it might be. So the death is actually a birth of many seeds who will propagate and make even more. So that's interesting in itself. But how many of us pay homage or homage or honor Mother Earth by planting something? And I thought about that. It just comes natural to me to want to plant stuff, whether it's for eating or I've saved trees. I got a lemon tree out there and a key lime tree that died during the frost this last year. But I mean, but I plant trees and I do these things because I like to watch them grow and I like to nourish them. And I never really thought about the fact that by doing so, I was paying homage or homage to Mother Earth by what I did. But now it makes like perfect sense. It's like, oh, well, yeah. And why do I bring this up? It's because that's what my granny did. She wasn't religious, but she was spiritual. And she tended her plants. She tended her little garden around the trailer. Flowers here, this some over here, and something over here. And it wasn't a lot that she tended, but she did. And that kept her in my opinion, in a spiritual bliss, if you will, that other people her same age were driving around and doing all this stuff. Granny was happy. Other people were always upset and they were going to the doctor and yada, 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 yada. Okay, fine. Now, you didn't know my grandma Raleigh, but she was just a wonderful lady. Her spirituality, separated from religion, is what I have cherished all these years. Now it's even more important because any religious ties we try to drag with us through the eye of that needle, we're not going to fit. I mean, our energies are going to be too low for the main reason that most religions are asking us to pray to through someone, or you can't get to heaven unless you say these prayers or you have baptized or whatever. And so the new thing is that everybody's awakening to is that I am already an angel. I am already a spiritual being. I am already this thing. And now the awareness is starting to sink in with a lot of people. Something else that got brought up, and I did a video, I guess last night about it, about, the light and the dark. And it was, and the comment was made that, how do you know if it's the right light? How do you know unless you've been in the dark? You must be in the dark to understand what the pure light is. And I was like, that was sort of like a pat on the back as an attaboy, in that I brought it up the day before and did a video about it and us entering into the darkness so that we can see the light. And in that darkness, we can shed off anything that we don't want other people to see. We can leave it in the dark. And then we can walk out of that darkness with light all around us. So it's like, well, why is this important? Because, yeah, we might, Hi, Brian, Milky Way, Rainbow Phoenix. I had to put my glasses on and look over here. Good evening, everybody. Purpose, no worries. You're in my top 5. You present daily living tweaks, even for us in our 70s. Bless you. Well, thank you, iStations Ed. Howdy, folks. Howdy, folks. Howdy, folks. Nice hair. Yeah, lion's mane. Thank you very much. Yeah. All right. So tomorrow night at 10 is going to be Rainbow Phoenix. Okay. All right. So that means I'm not going to be on with you, Brian. Okay. That's all right. Good, 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 good. I don't feel anything good, not lately. I mean, it's good to see you all and all, but I can feel energy, and the energy's weird, and maybe it's largely me. Maybe it's exclusively. I don't think so. Animals around here are a little, and so I wasn't able to grow them sunflower seeds or whatever, the little ingrates. Yes, the bugs have been absolutely furious. I went out in the garden check-in yesterday and today, and even the mullein that I planted and has come up on its own, the worms and bugs have eaten all the mullein. So I was going to go out there and collect it and do this thing. And anyway, it's like gaga. The energy right now is absolutely up and down and back and forth. Um, High waves, low waves, and each one of us is getting our own little tweaks, if you will. And I've noticed that it got brought up that the timelines are starting to merge and stay together. However, it's going to create some deja vu moments. It's also going to be bringing up some more Mandela effect things, because when the timelines split and merged and went off in these other directions, some people actually were tied to one particular timeline so they could see, I don't know, the Bernstein Bears spelled one way. And then other people were like, no, that's always been that way. So it's like, yeah, but okay. Um, um, Milky, Brian, it's up to you, my brother. I'm free any day, night, evening, or whatever. So if you got something you want to plan, I'm absolutely um, glad that Rainbow's coming on with you. So this, I'm not in any competition, Brian. I hope you understand that. I think you know me well enough to know that. So get folks on, do what you do, and if you need me for another evening, I'll be more than happy to come on with you. Absolutely. Um, there's yes, and it seems to be the way it has been described that some of us were attached to a particular timeline, and so our soul, spirit, our whatever, we were more connected to this timeline than, say, I don't know, my brother or sister who do something other things. Spiritually, they haven't been searching for what I've been searching for as hard as I've been searching for it. Not that they're any different, but my timeline is different from my siblings because, they're working to do it and blah, 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 blah. It's just different. Not that it's bad, it's just different. Thursday? Okay, Brian, just send me an email, okay, my friend? That's fine. Um, maybe that's why I'm doing a live thing now about the Lionsgate, because I think if we all know what our purpose is, most of us anyway, that we're here um, doing these things, and we want to contact other people. We want our community to grow with folks, and how we are all together. We are brothers and sisters, and we're understanding this on a level that is absolutely so monumental. It's so deep. I mean, the folks in Milky Way Weeklies hanging out, and the folks in other chats and other channels. And people are coming together, whether we actually meet or not, or whether you subscribe to my channel or somebody else's. If you just go to some of these channels and hang out, you'll notice it's like, but we're all kind of thinking more together than being separated. Now, it also got brought up today in the galactic updates is that there are some people who have, I say, started in our community who have absolutely just gone off the rails. I mean, you know, and some of them are just talking gibberish. And it's like, and I still respect these people, but I'm wondering what happened. I'm wondering how they got stymied, how they got stuck in the mud or whatever, but they're just like nothing's going on with them. And they're spouting off all this stuff and none of it's making sense. And it's like, well, wait a minute. You know, I listened to you for many, many, many moons and I loved what you did, but how come you got stuck? I don't understand it. How did you get stuck? What got you stuck? You know? Well, maybe they are stuck on another timeline. And a lot of us have like, oh, wait a minute. We are attached to a different timeline. So these folks over here, I call them my ex-gurus, but you know, anyway, because they are stuck gurus is actually a better term. So they're over here and they're stuck, but they're stuck on that timeline. So a lot of us have been looking at different timelines, doing different spirituality work. And so it's like, dun, 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 we're on this timeline looking back over here. So now this is just my interpretation of this day's weird point of view. But this would explain why it looks like some folks are stuck and why maybe they are frustrated and they don't see any progress in their own spiritual development. And some folks are just absolutely giving up, which is interesting because it seems like now that I want to be careful with this, but what I mean, now that the fight is on, in other words, this spiritual battle, and it's really intense right now, why are they dropping out? I mean, is it too intense for these folk? I can understand why. Is there other things that are happening to these stuck gurus? What's going on? And I am concerned for these people. I honestly am concerned. So it's like, but these timeline changes and certain entities being attached to a timeline, the rest of us very quite possibly are on our own timeline, which isn't necessarily better or worse. It's just different. Period. So I'm getting a little bit of download here. So it's important for folks to see and understand that their perception and these changes that are happening. And I really do feel like the timelines have been repaired. Now, I still say that they're a little on the weird side, but to the other side of this coin could very well be that I've been attached to a particular timeline. Other people are attached to this timeline over here and this time over here. And that, like folks who are leaving this planet early, like Milky Way, I know about your mama, and I've sent lots of healing prayers to you, and I know a lot of other people that have done it the same. But at the same point, those of us spiritual beings, we must understand that these folks who are passing on now could very well be the reason they're going now. is that to help the rest of us poor schmucks left down here to attain what we need to do. So like I can still feel my granny, you know, and she's been dead for 30 years or so. And but I still am attached with her spirit. So I still get guidance from granny, you know, and so it lifts me up um um to understand that those spirits are on the other side, and that one of these days my spirit self hopefully will be able to join. But right now, our soul contracts, mine, you know, this is my 5th anniversary of my death on the river. So it's like I'm still here. I'm still alive. I'm still speaking about the spirit world and these things. So it's very well possible then that my purpose, you know, I didn't understand what my purpose was, even though I had good intent. I didn't understand what my purpose was. And they kept it from me for a long time. So it's like, all right, um, that's so very, very interesting. Then why would I be allowed to live? Why would I be stuck down here? Why? Okay, that's my thing. My purpose is obviously to try to help other people to understand this. When people pass into the next realm, it's a better place for it really is. I didn't want to come back, you know, but you know, to the point. But there are those folks now who it's their soul contract is up, and let them go now, because there is like their energy gets shot to the stars rather than having to get conglomerated and vomited back on this planet. Is a wonderful planet. It's those who are in charge of the damn thing that's the problem, right? So, but why would anybody want? That's exactly right, Brian. They open up the Lion's Gate to let your mama come home, and a lot of other people. I've got some family members with sick spouses and things, and you know, it's across the board. A lot of people are having, and I'm talking folks half my age. You know, I'm like, you should have already had my funeral service or whatever. You know, if anybody would have showed up. But to my point, though, these folks have a reason, I believe, that they're passing now. It's because they can help from the other side. And also to alleviate too many souls trying to get through the same quadrant of the universe, if you will, at the same time. That's a slight joke there, but to the point. There's as many of us need to go through it as necessary. But it all boils back down to our frequency. So it's not a judgment call, but you should judge yourself. And it's really hard not to judge somebody else. I mean, it's like, well, you know, dang, they were mean to that person. You know, hell's going to get you for it, or, you know, God's going to get you for it, or, you know, whatever. It's really hard not to judge. But every time I find myself wanting to judge something, it's like I get smacked back in the face. Shut up, Dave. You can't judge. You can have an opinion. I don't like what that person's doing, but the judgment call as to whether or not they're going to make it to the next world. Now, the odds are kind of slim because of how they're operating. But at the same point, I can't sit there and tally up their numbers like, well, you know, you were an asshole yesterday and you were a mofo today. And 3 weeks ago, you were a mofo asshole. Oh my God, you know, whoops. It's not my place or anyone else's really to be tabulating these things. But we know people, we see people, we interact with people on a daily basis who are genuine buttholes. But we should respect them, for they are extremely good buttholes. I know a couple of people that it's just like, there's no, in my book, there is salvation for them, but it's like, they're still going to be buttholes. And when they get up to the landing, heading up to the 4th floor, somebody's going to be standing there going, I'm sorry, you're still a butthole. Go back down to the bottom of the stairs, and you're going to have to empty your pockets of this crappiness. You know, you can't be this way. Sorry. You know, your frequency has got to be a little higher to get to the fourth floor. So another thing that's come in with this intent versus purpose, and it has to do with, get this one here, this is a biggie, y'all, self-importance. Self-importance. Now, I know there are some family members of mine who are saying, Dave, you're doing these videos on Facebook because you want to feel important. Not really. Because the things I'm talking about are so far out there, it's like, hang on. You know, I could talk about puppetry. I could talk about storytelling. There are a lot of other subjects I could be discussing right now on this YouTube channel, on my Facebook thing, but I'm not. I'm speaking about how to help save other folks' souls. How do I help save souls? How can I be of service to others during this very important time in history? My purpose is as a communicator. My intent is to help by the purpose of my being a communicator. And now the thing is that even watching folks in the chat rooms, we are all communicators, every single one of us. What we type, how we type it, whether we use capital letters or scream at people with underlines or use fire and some weird kind of emoji. What's our intent behind our words? What is our purpose of being in the chat room to begin with? To interact with other people. But do you want to interact with other people and be a butthole? Or do you want to interact with other people and have a like mind? And, you know, we don't all agree on everything. That's not the point. But we all do agree in the divine. We all agree in the source creator. We all agree on that. Everything else doesn't matter worth a shit, except that we all understand our spirits, how we get there and our motivation. But if our motivation and purpose has true intent, I'm bringing this back around. Our purpose is to do as best we can, and our intent is to be that. So if you are awakening, if you have things that you have awakened in yourself, it is our spiritual duty to other people to help them to understand it. It is our duty to communicate the best way possible to other people. Now, you can just talk about, well, Jesus did this, blah, 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 and people are just going to go, but what does it mean? Can you tie it into the spiritual part and show that Jesus is a valid person, spirit, being, etc., without religion, without any, quote, Christianity? The Christness, the Christ consciousness is there without any book, without a Bible. We don't need it. Now, if we just read the red parts in the Bible, which is supposedly what Jesus said and blah, 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 you know, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, okie dokie. I agree with you, Miss Denise. You are my family. I mean, when Rainbow and Pamela and all of you, I mean, I just can't express enough how much I send my love to you all. Let me take my little glasses off so you can see my beady little blue eyeballs. I honestly, and I know you believe me, because I do. It's so amazing to me that people I have never met in a personalized way, shook hands with or hugged or whatever, that we all have the same amount of compassion for one another, that we share this thing, whether we agree on all points or not. That's not the point. But you are my family, and the whole world is our family. We are this small community, but this community, someone might, you know, I'm involved in other chat rooms and things, which is part of the overall community, the world community. Oh my goodness gracious. And it is expanding. And it's expanding rather quickly. I mean, I've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now about how I'm actually seeing the change. Where 3 or 4 months ago, well, maybe 5 months now, but back in March, I was really like, I don't know. I mean, the spirits were telling me, hang in there, don't lose your faith, Dave. You got to hang in there because even though I'm not seeing the results that I was expecting, I also wasn't looking as hard as I should have been. So, in my defiance of doesn't seem to be working, I was taken to places and chats and things and blah, blah, blah. And then I started, and the message was, don't just hang out in the chat, pay attention to what they're saying. Pay attention to the mode or the mood with which this person typed that, and the responses and the backlash and the yada, 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 yada. And then that's when I noticed the changes. Very subtle at first. And now it's like back at the 1st of July when we had that big burst of energy, it seems like there's been a really big crunch come on. And I mean, the trolls who were so nasty aren't as nasty. Maybe they're finally just giving up because they're not having an effect on us. But at the same time, the people who used to react to those trolls have all changed their tunes. I mean, it's like their nasty remarks and, just it's changed. And I think it's absolutely marvelously wonderful. So that's why we must keep the faith. We should keep the faith. We need to hang in there. And I know all of you, we are hanging in there. And like in a few hours, I can already feel this energy. I can't explain it. It's almost like it's coming up through my feet. Now I'm barefoot on the floor. My floor is made out of the dirt from here and concrete. And but I wanted to incorporate into the floor of my house Mother Earth. Now, cement and concrete is Mother Earth, but I mean, I wanted to use the clay and the dirt from here and mixed it in. So I got like a 50-50. I used my own dirt for the house here. And so in my own crazy way, I'm feeling there's not a blockage there, if you will. I'm feeling Mother Earth because I used Mother Earth for my floor. So it feels kind of tingly right now, as I'm explaining. It feels kind of tingly coming up my legs and kind of shooting up. And it feels like a flow. This is going on right now. So it feels like a flow, and it's a little tingly light energy. I can't really say that I haven't had this feeling before. It's usually not going in any particular direction. Usually it's like, I don't know, you sat around and played music with somebody and you play a song and the harmony is right and the hair on your arms stick up and you go, woo, that was like, woo, it's like that, but not. When that feeling happens with theater or music or something like that, it's like it's stationary. It's not flowing up or down. Now it feels like that little tingling sensation is happening, but it's flowing past me. It's almost like there's a breeze on the hairs on my leg. I mean, it's kind of, as I'm sitting here trying to describe this to you, like it's like this is a little creepy maybe, but it's happening. It's here. It's right now. And I'm doing my best to try to describe it. So it's like, good. I cannot see that size type. Tingles, harmony. Yeah. The energy behind the words, the soul tribe family. Absolutely. I know you all love and respect me. I do. You wouldn't hang out with me. I mean, it's just, that's the way it is. You folks have better things to do than to just hang out. I mean, you know, so I must have something of value, and I am humbled by it all. I trust me. But what's going on right now? So with our collective intent right now, all of us can just say, you know, like, follow along. You know, I'm Mr. Doobie or whatever. I was thinking of the old kids program years ago when they used to have Mr. Doobie, and anyway, now Mr. Doobie means that, you know, you got a tops rolling paper zigzag or whatever. But anyway, I digress. So all of us, as we're sitting here right now with me, wherever you are on this planet right now, we can all have the same thought. I wish for peace. I wish for love and compassion to grow. I wish for those who are almost awake, be awakened. I wish for the blue meanies to be taken off of this planet for good. That's my prayer. And you guys just shared in that prayer. And so our collective intent of 8 people, 9 people, I guess, counting me. No, I think I'm one of the viewers because I'm watching this on the YouTube thing. But anyway, but to the point though, there are 8 of us who just prayed for peace because you listened to my words. And none of you are arguing. You know what I mean? So it's like it's as simple as that. That's our collective. And in my opinion right now, we're like warming the pot. Now, if you've ever now I'm an old carny. Grew up as a kid on the carnival. I'm, you know, cotton candy, candy apples, popcorn, you know, the snow cones. That was my deal for a long time growing up. And I have an industrial size, humongous popcorn popper. And I don't use it often enough. It sits in my joint trailer out there. And, but the whole thing is that you start the pot to make the popcorn, but the first batch never turns out right. You put it in, you do the oil, you let it heat up, but whatever it is, that first batch never turns out quite right. The kernels, it doesn't taste, whatever the deal. But the second pot, once that pot gets warm, oh man, the popcorn that comes out of that thing, you mix it in with the first batch so you don't notice it. But and those of us in the carny business, those of us who make popcorn like for real, you know, it's like the first batch is always okay, but there's something about when the pan or the pot or whatever the vehicle is that you're popping the popcorn with. And if you're using a nuke machine, oh, shame on you, but okay. And you know, it's hard to find just regular popcorn anymore, just popcorn in the bag. Everything's in a sealed thing and it all goes into microwave now. I mean, I can't find a 1-pound bag of popcorn. Now, I still have about 10 pounds of popcorn out of a 50-pound bag that I had that I purchased many years ago. But to the point, though, we're warming the pot for the meditation, which is coming up. That, without going into any more detail about the popcorn, it's making me hungry for popcorn. But even when I cook it on the stove, the first pot, it pops okay, blah, blah, blah. But the second and the third and all the other ones after that, because there's something that's happened to the pot itself to where it's like the popcorn pops better. I don't get it, don't know. Over the last 50 years of making, actually it's more like 60 years of making popcorn, but we won't go there. 55 years, easy, of making popcorn. And a lot of it in the carnival, you know. So we right now are warming the pot for the meditation to come up here in a couple of hours. That's how I'm viewing this right now. So when I knock off this live stream and whatever, I'm going to continue in that mode. And I think it's 5:15-ish Eastern Daylight Time. So I'm going to do my best. I made a fresh pot of coffee. Now I'm going to do my best to stay up, and I'm going to try to stay in this meditative mode all the way through this peak meditation period coming up. I think it's important. I think we all think it's important. I think we all know it's important. There's something inside of our souls who are that's talking to us, going, "Yeah, I get this. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. I get it. That's my soul talking. Yeah, there's something about this that's different. It's different from other times. It's different from other meditations. It's different in a good way, but it's different." And also coming up on the 11th, which is Friday, I believe, there's going to be the new moon, another high energy deal. And so from now until actually through Friday, it's going to be high energy. Now, the Schumann resonance is low at the moment, which is kind of surprising, but not, not too weird. And some of the solar winds were a little lower than usual. That's a good thing. But we're still getting energy spikes. I mean, it's still coming in, whether it's a full-fledged event, we are still getting spikes on a regular basis coming in. Even though the Schumann resonance has calmed down in the overall wiggly, fill up the screen with pictures, anyway. When you look close at it, though, the spikes are coming in almost on an hourly basis. We're getting pa-ting. It only lasts a minute or so. Pa-ting, it's hitting us. So we are still getting hit with these heavy-duty frequencies, but they're really short-lived. I mean, a couple of minutes long at best. So it's going to be curious to see what's on the other side of tomorrow. Or actually, it's today. It's officially 12 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. So it's going to be interesting to see if there's any kind of noticeable shift. I can already feel it. We just discussed the energy feelings and the tingling, but I'm going to be curious, as we all will be, as to what transpires tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And especially, in my opinion, after this new moon, which is also going to be, I think they said there's going to be an eclipse as well. I'm not sure on that, but I would say that Saturday and Sunday should be some interesting things, and the following week should be interesting, politically, nationally, whatever, stuff going on. But there's going to be some changes, and you can see them. I mean, if you've been watching the news at all, even the fake news, you can tell there's some stuff going on. And the Galactics have been mentioning, that, yeah, we haven't forgotten about all the mass arrest and things, and about the RV coming out and all this other kind of stuff. But the planets have to align. There's certain things have to happen in order for this to be achievable. I mean, there's new information out. Several months ago, Trump went in and pretty much stopped the Fed, the Federal Reserve Board. Haven't been hearing too much of them in the news lately, have we? Whatever that woman was. Anyway, we haven't heard much about the interest rates rising and this and from the Feds. Been really quiet. And there was usually at least one news article in mainstream every single week after the first of the year. There was all this blah, 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 blah. And the Feds aren't talking right now. Now, they say that Trump has kind of thrown a monkey wrench in, and that our new dollars that are supposed to be coming out are going to be silver back as well as gold back. Now, I still have in my possession, if they weren't stolen with my silver, a couple of silver certificates. And it said right on the dollar bill, silver certificate, exchange in silver. versus the Federal Reserve note, which was just a note, a promissory note. So now those were around during John F. Kennedy. And the big plan has been to put us back where we were 60, 55 years ago, back to silver based, not necessarily gold based, because that's like really weird. There's enough silver on this planet, and it's been underrated and under everything. But that there should be some things opening up here in the next few weeks before the election. But usually things will come about by Labor Day, if it has anything to do with the election. So this coming Labor Day should be real interesting, to say the least, with all of this stuff going on, all these energies. I mean, August, we're almost in the Lion's Gate, and we're going to have another new moon, and we'll have another we'll have another full moon by the end of this month as well. So interesting times, interesting energies. And I believe, especially you folks in this chat, I mean, we are in harmony with this. Let me come back up here to, I felt this energy for days, just keeping, yeah. Soon the pot will be effervescing. In the reference to the popcorn, I got it. Zed, you gone? Okay, much love to you. New moon on the 11th, Saturday. It's supposed to be Friday night, Saturday, but anyway. Yeah, these shifts that are going on right now, I've been a little reluctant to say anything about it, but I've just gotten absolutely knocked down for several days. I mean, wiped out, knocked down. Don't know if I had a meal that day. I mean, wiped the F out, to the point of like I'm waking up going, what day is this? I think I did something on Saturday, and now it's Tuesday night. I mean, it's really fuzzy. It's almost like I was out for 2 days, but it felt like a week. I mean, just really weird. Now I get knocked out because of my brain concussion and things. My brain is still healing. And there are times when no matter what I try to do, there is no staying awake. And they called it narcolepsy and treated me for that for almost 30 years due to all my head concussions. Now that I'm off of all of those medications, I'm more susceptible to the universe. Well, with that said, though, they do have information out now that these new waves are changing our thought patterns. They are changing our thought patterns. Not maybe, not could be, not, oh, well, it's a conspiracy theory. No, there are white papers out there, and it was in the mainstream news, NASA, blah, 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 that these new energies coming from outer space are definitely affecting our brain patterns and our moods. So it's like, well, holy crap, it validates how we are all feeling. So now in a lot of ways, I feel a lot better, except that I have this issue with being able to stay awake. Now I'm being assured that everything's okay, but I want to plant my fall garden. It's time, and I don't have the energy. And I've been down these last 2 weeks walking in the spirit world. And it's like when I wake up and try to be physical again, it's all I can do to walk outside and feed the chickens. It's like, holy moly. Now, I know this will pass, and I'm saying this not as a complaint, but as an observation. I didn't even want to bring it up. But that's what I've been going through these last couple of weeks. It is, in so many ways, it's horrendous because I can't even watch a program all the way through. If it's longer than an hour, I'm asleep. you know, and it's like, I'll be wide awake right now, 3 cups of coffee, everything's groovy, and then chunk, I'm out. No reason, no warning, bye, chunk. That's one reason why I don't drive around much anymore. So I think, I don't know if anybody else has been having this, sure enough, knock you the F down. And I'm like, I'm taking this with a grain of salt. There's healing in this. I understand. On a awakened look around my house, my floors need mopped, and you know, I got mold growing in the corner of in the bathroom. I mean, there's stuff I need to take care of here, you know, and it's not difficult, it's not hard, but I can't stay awake enough to do it. And it's like, that's a can be a little aggravating. But I've been reassured that just calm down. We're high energy. You know, there's nothing that's so drastic. You know, I don't have a sink full of dishes and, you know, okay, but yeah, all right, there's a spot in the bathroom. Okay, but that's my issue. You know, I make it a problem, but I want to do it. You know, I don't like my house being like this. I want to finish using the vacuum cleaner and mopping. You know, it's time. It's been a month. You know, okay. So anyway, I'm going back over here. But diets have been horrible, and that isn't helping either. Right. So Rainbow, you've been getting that same thing, and it might be that you were Denise. You were worried because it was just you. See, that's the purpose of having these chats. Guess what? You know, and I, like I said, I was reluctant to even mention it. You know, I'm like, nah, I'm just gonna, you know, I'm just gonna not, you know, people are gonna think, oh, damn, he's just bitching about that ain't it. I'm not bitching. I'm just like, well, but this has been going on. Yeah, we got to just hang in there. You know, Rainbow, I was thinking that same thing about it's the weight of the world on our shoulders. And I had a revelation, and I think you and I may have discussed this in our chat, but that when I realized that I couldn't convince the naysayers, the people who were screaming at me and cussing me out, when I kept trying to hold my hand out and help and do, you know, and it just kept getting whacked on, shot at, and otherwise, you know. But when I realized that um, we're only supposed to help the people that want help, and that we don't ignore the other people, but we just don't pay any attention. It's like, I see you over there jumping up and down in the mud puddle. If you don't ask for my help, I'm have a good time. But then there are those who are stuck in the mud going, help me. I could use it. Can you help me? Those folks. So when I started, it lifted my spirits greatly. Yes, we help them silently. I still pray for them. It's just that it's not worth the argument to try to help them along. I'm still feel compassion for these people. I still love them all very deeply. Now, maybe you guys are a little higher on my love quotient, if you will, because, you know, we're sharing this. But those folks, yeah, I still love them. And someone could say, yeah, but you don't really love them like you love these folks here. That's probably true. I mean, to be quite honest, you got to love your neighbor, but you don't love him as good as, you know, a family. You know, you understand what I mean. Yep, 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 yep. Absolutely. But when I stopped trying to worry about those folk, a big lift came off my shoulders, because I did absolutely feel like it was the weight of the world on our collective shoulders. And so it's like, I still see them over in the corner. I can still acknowledge them. I still pray for them, but they're not taking up my time. I stopped worrying about them. Concerned? Yeah. Compassionate? Yeah. But am I going to lose my time to try to go over there and convince them? It's not worth it when there are other people who are looking for information. Help me there's something in here I don't understand about this. And maybe in our little chats like now, somebody gets a little something and goes, something big. It makes sense. And that's my purpose, is like, for all this crap, I'm trying to make sense of the craziness for myself as well as everybody else. But so in my craziness, these are the things I find, which you guys already know that. So, but anyway, and it's a blessing. You all are a wonderful blessing, not just to me, but to each other. You folks are blessing each other. I'm a conduit in a way. So is Mr. Brian, Milky Way Weekly. We're conduits. But look at how many people, Rainbow, Denise, and Pamela, and the list goes on. We have met each other in these chat rooms, on these channels, in these live streams, and we have all connected in this quantum. Isn't that amazing? And it isn't about me. It isn't about you. It's about, I don't know if this shows up. Nope, it's backwards. It says self-importance. Denise, I think new moon is on the 11th. Let me here. My little monthly planner here has all the July. Yeah, the 11th is new moon. It will carry over. Let's see. The eclipse started. The new moon, I guess, will be in the morning time for us, so we won't really actually see it. And of course, it's disappeared anyway. But new moon is on Saturday. Oh, I said Friday, didn't I? Whoops. I had the wrong day. I'm sorry very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It is Saturday. It is Saturday. But I do think it's Friday night into Saturday morning. So it's like early Saturday, not Saturday night. Anyway, but you're right, it's Saturday. Technically. And it depends on where you are in the world as to whether or not it comes up or not. So back to this self-importance. A couple of friends of mine on Facebook have made some comments to me, and it's like, you're trying to feel important again, aren't you? And I'm like, well, maybe. But my point to this is that if I wanted to be important again, I would discuss puppetry or storytelling or theater or how to direct or acting tips. Here I am talking about spirituality and saving souls. So if I wanted to feel important, or if I wanted to bring up the old David Null, the traveling puppeteer and storyteller, this is the wrong medium. This is the wrong subject. So is this for my own self-importance? Yep, I understand, Rainbow. And, it's like they think they're doing me a favor by critiquing my life, okay? And because some of these folks, we're in theater together, critiques are very important. And I mean, after every show with Brian, I ask for critiques. I'm saying, okay, did this get across? Was I, you know, did I make myself clear? Did I bring the subject around? What were people's reactions? Because I need to be critiqued for what I have done. So these folks think they're doing me a favor. But what they're telling me is that, well, Dave, you just want to become important again. They should know me better. But they only see the fact that I'm back on Facebook. I'm doing live videos instead of, typing out letters of whatever and how I feel. I just tell people now in the conversation, because they wouldn't read what I had to say anyway. But I've noticed that some of these folks will listen to a topic that I might bring up if it's interesting enough to them. So it's like, well, okay, but you wouldn't read a post on the same Facebook platform. Okay, I get it. Now, but I can do the same thing. I listen a lot versus watch a video. I will listen. So I get that. Now, the self-importance part, I think some of these stuck gurus that I was talking about somehow became so self-important to themselves. And of course, they're trying to make money off their channel, and they're trying to provide a service. Many of them, most, but there's nothing wrong with trying to stay alive in this world, But are you ripping people off? Could you charge $40 instead of $100? I mean, are you making this more affordable, or are you just talking out your butt? So some of these people, because they have helped other people, these stuck gurus I'm speaking about, have become so self-important to themselves. And I'm getting a amen from up yonder. They're going, yeah, that's right. Tell them, Dave. It's like, because it's that you think, and I have went through this mind-boggling battle within my own spirit, is how I know this, because I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to talk about any subject other than puppets or something. I mean, okay, but I mean anything esoteric or spiritual, because I was like, folks are going to take this the wrong way. They're going to think I'm trying to be Jesus or a guru or a god or something. They're going to misinterpret what my intent is. Man, I struggled. I mean, today I wasn't going to do this video, and I was like, dang, nope, gotta go. Gonna make coffee. I don't want to. Here I am. But is that about self-importance? I don't think so. I don't feel it. I'm humbled by the fact that you folks show up and we have conversations together. You chat amongst yourselves. I mean, this is great. This is better than any family reunion. I mean, of a personal nature, family reunion. But because somebody's always going to start a damn argument, And it's like, we haven't been arguing for over an hour. I've been on this thing, and I've not seen any argument. My gosh, that we all deserve a hand. That means that we feel that our self-importance is to service others. So what is my self-importance? My self-importance means, now this is my own personal, means I feel important enough with the information that is being channeled through me that I must share it. Having nothing to do with ego, having nothing to do with self-aggrandizement, oh, I'm trying to sell you something. No. Now, there are those folks who feel self-important, but they've some of these stuck gurus now have almost gotten to the point of being really narcissistic. And I mean, like, we can do no wrong. Our message is the only message, and this is the only way you're going to get there. And if you don't take these essential oil, okay. Now, there are a lot of other things that I should be doing, and I'm not. but it has to do with my mental, my physically mental part of it wanting to shut down. Like I said, I'm working on it, getting better. But at the same time, am I being shut down, as I described a few minutes ago, for downloads, for information? This is my 5th anniversary of walking with the spirits on the river. I mean, so and I'm just now starting to like decode what was downloaded over the last few days. But what's being downloaded is this. Is our, do you feel that you're important enough to another person, to another being, to an animal perhaps, or plants even, to Mother Earth, that it requires your energy, that your intent or your purpose even, the purpose would be to communicate how you feel or what you see or what it is. You feel important enough within yourself, which could be confidence. And I know many of us are like, man, I don't want to do a YouTube video. I mean, look at my hair. My hair needs washed, and I'm like, and I had to get on. Okay, you love me anyway. And our common bond, our soul speaking, our spiritual speaking, our angels speak, our higher self speak, all of these things now are what is connecting us. And I submit, and I would bet you would all agree with me, that we are all attached into this quantum right now. I mean, you can probably hear other beings talking right now if you're tuned in a little bit, because my intent and purpose right now is to, like, as I'm receiving downloads, I'm trying to share this download with you. So psychically, energetically, when I lean in a little close and I use my eyeballs, I'm trying to help push the compassion that I feel, to push the spirituality of Creator, not from me, but through me to you and to anyone else. And so that is my purpose for communication, and the intent is to make sure it gets to everyone. It's understood. Now, I know I repeat myself sometimes, and I'm trying to go back over the information to make sure that I covered it all. Now, those folks who have become so narcissistic with this self-importance, we've all pretty much seen them. We've all went, holy crap, what happened? And this discussion has gone on. So we have to understand it's all right for those of us, especially who've been silent for so long, to have a little feeling of self-importance, because we all feel now that our spirituality is really important right now. It's meaningful to other people, not just ourselves. And so this self-importance of being able to share our collective spirituality is a good thing. Now, there's a fine line in a lot of instances. I mean, I don't have a problem with it because it's like, but there are other people like, well, like my channel, hit the like button, and I'm being sponsored by Noble Gold, and, and then they go into the message. That's fine. And I'm not saying that they're a shyster or anything. That's not my point. But some of these people have just tuned in to listen to them, and they're rehashing stuff. It's nothing new, nothing earth-shattering, and they're just as confused as the rest of them. But because of their self-importance, they feel that even though they don't have any good news or anything to update anybody with, their self-importance has turned into narcissism. Now they're like, oh, look at me. I'm a guru. Well, but what have you done lately? Doesn't matter. Look at me. I'm a guru. Yeah, well, who have you helped lately? Look at me. I'm a guru. And there's like no answer in there. And that's, to me, is the wrong side of self-importance. So we must have enough confidence within our own beings, our own spirit, to be able to share these things. Now, I've been on stage in front of hundreds, thousands of people doing as an MC, storyteller, actor, all of the above. So, sitting in front of this camera is a little intimidating sometimes, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, but, almost wet myself one time standing in front of a group of 1,000 people. I'm like, holy crap. But anyway, when you forget a line and you're stuck, anyway. So it's not about my self-importance, but it is about my own self-confidence. And I think each one of us should, and I'm seeing a really good stuff happening in the chat rooms, and Rainbow, you're going to be on with Brian and so forth. These are all positive results of this. These are the things that we watched other people who were so self-important that they lost sight of what their purpose was to share and enlighten other beings. And they lost their intent, because their intent went from helping people to selling a product so they could stay on the air. Well, I'm a poor man and I just use Hangouts, and yeah, I spend $100 a month for my DSL line, but I got nothing else. That's why I don't have a cell phone either, because my DSL costs so much. But to the point, though, this is my access to the world. And why not? I get my Roku and I can watch movies. Okay, I don't have to watch television. It's important that each one of us, though, check ourselves at the door, as it were, because in doing comedy and certain routines, you've watched some of these comics, they think they're funny. And so they try to convince you that they're funny, when actually they ain't funny worth a shit. It's like, what? That was a dumb joke. And it was, but he's laughing or she's laughing and ha, 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 ha. And it's like, but it ain't funny. Sorry, it ain't funny. There are very few comedians anymore that I can even stomach to listen to. And I love comedy. But what was said to us by the directors that I've had and other people that I've been in the business with, I've done 85 different stage production shows, and that's just the shows. I mean, some of the shows were like, we did 4 or 5 weeks of them. Sometimes it was 2 or 3 weekends, but whatever. Some days when I did puppet shows, I'd do 10 shows in one day. So it's like, but I just counted the day as an activity, when there was actually the whole day was an activity. But anyway, I digress. We have to have enough confidence to speak. But what I meant by we have to check ourselves at the door is, before you break a leg and the legs of the curtain going onto the stage, that's where the phrase comes from, to break a leg. It's not to physically break your leg. It's the legs of the curtain on the stage. Little inside information there. No. But before you break the legs, you must check your own self-importance backstage. You leave it back there. When you walk out onto the stage and out into the spotlight, you become a character. Your self-importance, your own whatever, should stay behind the curtain. It's so that you can be effective as a comedian or as an actor or whatever it is. But you leave that shit backstage. It's not that you're lying to the audience or whatever, but you got to leave that stuff. I might talk on a particular subject, and I try to speak in enlightened terms when I might have a really crappy point of view, but it's a negative, and I've already been through it myself, and why should I share that crap with you? But to the point, though, why should I walk out onto the world stage and bring things that just is a bunch of bullshit, nonsense, and try to make you believe it or understand it? Forget it. So that's what I mean. So when we break the legs of coming onto a program, or when we start a video, or whatever we do, if we're just meeting with other people, we should check our egos at the door. We should check our self-importance at the door. Do I feel my message is important? I hope so. You all have said so. So that's my feedback. You are my critics. You are the critique. Am I getting through to you? Is my point of view getting across? You let me know. Comments let me know. Am I making a point? Is it understood? Yes, no, maybe, go to hell. Okay, but see, you are my critiquers. You are those folks. You're my directors in a way, because you're watching this performance and you're going, now I'm not making this up. I'm saying, but as a person who's trying to get a point across, and you know these other folks that you tune into, and it's like, man, I can't even listen to them, let alone watch them or whatever. It's like, sorry. Even though they might have a little bit of tidbit of really good information there, it's something that their style or their self-importance, I'm so important, you should listen to me. And I just want to go, your information might be good, but your delivery sucks. I mean, anyway. So our self-importance, is it important? Absolutely. But it's only important to ourselves. So should we share our self-importance? I've learned these things. This is my shaman's journey on the red road. Well, I've been hit with a cattle prod and said, you need to talk with folks. So my purpose and my intent shows up this way. Is it about self-importance? You probably already figured that part out. It's not about that for me. So in order for folks to understand your heart and listen to your words, when you check your ego at the door or check your self-importance at the door. Now, that doesn't mean that you leave out, but you turn yourself into a more pure spiritual being when you try to explain or you share things on a YouTube video or whatever. So that's confidence. Confidence in the material and confidence in what you know. Now, I've noticed there are some people who have said, my stuck guru group, that's, say that 4 times quick. Anyway, that their self-importance has turned into, narcissist, being a narcissist, narcissism, but that also they're overconfident because they're trying to convince you that they are the only way. And it's like that, but you're not sharing that. And if some of these stuck gurus are going, yeah, but if you don't use this essential oil, and they want to badger you, it's like a bad car salesman. And it's like, hang on here. So that's what I'm getting at. So our self-importance should only be important to ourselves. It's the confidence in each of us that allows us to speak our heart, to speak our mind. Now, gotta be careful with that one, because if I spoke my mind, I'd be cussing folks out and I'd be, you asshole. So I had to take my little calm pill, which is like, Dave, anytime you've ever hollered, screamed, or raised your voice or whatever, no one listens. No one listens. As soon as there's a certain tempo, sound, frequency with the raising of the voice, or if you don't believe it, folks don't listen. Me as well. I mean, but folks don't listen. So you're not going to get your point across. So how you present your information is very important. But the fact that if you will share it from your heart, let the brain filter some of this stuff out so you just don't blurt out nonsense, but allow yourself and allow yourself to be connected to source when you're speaking from your heart. Why do I say this? Because some of you are going to be speaking for your very first time in front of a group of people, if you will. And not that you're scared or whatever, but I believe each one of us wishes to make our point with the least amount of bullshit in between. We want to make our point without trying to beat another person in the head, because they're not going to listen. I mean, we want to have an effect. We want out the effect that we do. Our intent is to have a positive outcome. So you must be positive when you go for it, I guess. Like I say, so there's sometimes I want to say certain things, and I got to leave that Dave back behind the curtain, because is it too revealing? No, it's just that it's not necessary. That's the point. So what is important to us individually, our self-importance, we need to take a second and look at our friends and neighbors and colleagues and go, now, this is important to me, but is it worthy of telling someone else about it? So that's when you use your brain and you go, well, I don't know, Stephanie talked about this, and Pamela, and, and Rainbow. And so, this might be something to bring up to the group. This might be something I should discuss with the community. So therefore, your heart says, I need to talk to somebody about this. Your brain then interprets that and says, let me look around and see what's going on. Okay, I'm going to be on with Brian. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have a thing. We're going to chat, blah, 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 whatever it is. Even just showing up for the live feed to be in the chat. That's important. And because we support each other in that endeavor, that's making this community stronger than ever. And the more we support each other and understand our self-importance is important. It's important to me that I understand these things. But what's even more important is that I can communicate these ideas to you. That's much more important. So that takes my self-importance out of the picture. Is any of this making sense? I had to finish that. Milky Way, okay, he's already gone. Much love to Brian, yes. It's all very important. Thank you. I hope that I know I go around this, but see, I have no notes. I've got intent versus purpose, self-importance. I've got 5 words written down, and those are my notes. So everything else is off the cuff. But that's why I got high awards in my extemporaneous speaking. The other thing, though, is that I also understand on a soul level some of this stuff. And I asked for help with this one. I was like, you want me to talk about this shit? I ain't got a clue. These guys got to help me out here. So here I am on this thing, and there was 8 people. There were 9 people at one point on here having conversation and participating. And I'm like, holy crap. I'm learning that I don't always need to like the messenger to hear the message if it's for me. Absolutely. And sometimes I get messages in a television program. I mean, I'm watching Stargate Universe or something, or Atlantis, excuse me. And 2 people are having a conversation about death and dying and the light and the darkness and so forth. And it's like, takes less than 2 minutes for this conversation on a television program that, I don't know, 10, 15 years old now. But to the point, though, that those 5 sentences that they spoke were so deep. It's like, oh my God. Most other people would have just glossed right over it. You talk about death and dying and in between and so forth. But what they said in that short little time frame was very deep, very important, and a very strong message to me, because it validated the video I did about the light and the darkness, entering into the darkness. It was like it came after that. I was like, holy crap, here, so I call them attaboys. It's like, attaboy, you spoke about it, and then you got a confirmation to back it up. about how important this is. Not about self-importance, but how much this topic, this little wording is important to somebody else's soul, and they're getting it. I don't know if I'm saved, but I know I've done the best I can. I don't know what else I could do to like be more spiritual, burning more incense, or I don't know, because I try to live in the moment all the time in a state of prayer. So it's like I never thought it would be. My notes are in my heart. Thank you, Susie. I have to stop being picky about where the messages come from. It's all connected. Thank you, and you're welcome, um, Miss Sassy Susie, because the messages are they'll be in the weirdest places, and they'll be, I call them my little angel messages. It's like, okay, been thinking about a topic. I get my Mother Mary message, hey, we'll talk about compassion. All right. So, but then at the same point, I'll like, but what about compassion? What about, how do I go about this? What in relation to somebody else's life? What meaning does it make? Okay, particulars, if you will. And then maybe in a program, I've even got messages from commercials that will say a one-line sentence, and I'll go, oh my God, that's information that I need for this particular topic. So it's like the whole world is a coded message, if you will. Coded. 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 Coffee time. Coffee time. Coffee time. I had a pause for the cause. My brain went for a second there. My heart was going back through the messages to make sure that this particular thing was discussed. So, and I hope that it does make sense in that I was a screamer. I mean, when I look back on how I used to react to people, and oh my God, I would do it at the top of my voice, and I'd do all these other kind of things, and I was like, oh man, are you serious here? But then when I realized that just the tone of my voice, and I used it on stage as characters and everything, but in my real life, I was, in so many words, I was a minor asshole, because I would speak my mind and blurt it out. You're a stupid son of a bitch. And I would just, and then go, oh man, I shouldn't have said it like that. I should have said, I don't think you understand the question, or there's always another way to express a point of view without being a butthole. That's it. And I realized, now this has been going on 15 years now, but it seems like only yesterday, but to the point where the people that I interacted with on a daily basis, they would do shit they knew damn well and good was going to trip my trigger and me want to blow up in their face. And then when I'd see it, I'd go, oh man, some bitch did it again. But I'm not going to give them the privilege to watch me fly off the handle at them. Instead, I'm going to turn around and go, are you having a bad day? And they go, what? Well, we've had this conversation before about these adjustments on this machine. Are you having a bad day? Well, I don't know what you're talking about. Are you having a bad day? Because obviously you didn't remember what we discussed 50 times, but you must be having a bad day. So it's like, rather than get angry at them, I would go, you must be having a bad day today, right? Something's wrong, whatever. Well, no. Well, why? Well, because you forgot how to do this. So rather than them seeing me get pissed off, I would go, there must be something wrong. Are you having a bad day? Did you have a fight with your wife last night? Or the kids give you shit? I mean, and it's like, what would be a volatile situation, when I listen to my heart, and let it flow through my head versus trying to let it go through my head. It'll never go into the heart if the head starts with it. Never. Maybe a thought, but because if your heart's not in it, it's not there. We all know that. So I learned back then that, my tone of voice, how I approach the situation. Yeah, I was pissed off inside and I went back to my office and threw a cup of water against the wall or whatever. I'm making that up. But to the point, I showed my anger in another way. And so it's like, and after I started doing this and it got more natural to my person, I didn't even really get pissed off anymore. It's like, man, all right, they did it again. But then as I treated them differently, though, the incidence of them having a bad day kind of thing significantly dropped. And I mean, we're talking tools and machines and stuff, $500-600 worth of tooling. They'd crash 2 or 3 times a day because they weren't listening. They weren't paying attention. And so with that, I look at things and I'm like, it wasn't my money. It's the company's money. And I'm here to save them money. That's what my purpose is here. And my intent is to try to teach these people how to not break $2,000 worth of tooling in one shift. Okay. But with that said, though, when I changed my own personal self-importance, because I was taking what they did personally, I showed you how to do this correctly. I showed you how to make the adjustments. And so you did this to me. My own self-importance. I'm the engineer. I designed the tooling and blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, so were they doing it on purpose? Did they have a bad day? I mean, maybe they had a hangover, which was the case a couple of times. But to the point, when I took my self-importance out of the issue and approached it from a neutral point of view, I was able to get these folks to be, oh, Mr. Dave, I missed that. Oh, is that what you meant? Oh, because somewhere in my previous delivery, I raised my voice. I sounded like I was hollering. It sounded like my own self-importance was my ego coming out to them. And they were reacting to what they thought was my ego. And as I had to stop and look at it, they were partially correct. Because I was allowing my ego. I corrected this. I built this tool. I showed you how to use it. But at the same point, that was my own self-importance. That was my own ego. So I was going, hey, what happened to this tool? I took myself out of it. Yeah, I designed it. Yeah, I babysat it. Yeah, I got it to your machine. And yeah, it took 2-3 weeks to do this. And then you managed to blow it up in 20 minutes of your first shift. It's a little hard not to get a little ticked. But at the same time, it's like, but it didn't do any good because it was already broken. It didn't do any good. So it's like, well, here we go. Did we learn anything about this? But when I changed my tone, not just in my voice, but also from my head, I started using my heart when I talk to them. Look, you're getting bad grades here on your machine running. You're going to have to come in Saturday when you don't want to because you don't have enough production met. Blah, 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 blah. What you're doing now is so unbelievable. So, I mean, I'm talking about a manufacturing setting, earplugs so loud in the building, you had to get like close to each other to even have a conversation out on the floor. So very strict in that respect as a manufacturing. But it taught me so much more about my delivery. And that when I took my self-importance out of the conversation and my ego, which I got to say at the time I was running high, but at the same time, I mean by running high is that they had fired 5 other engineers and kept me. I took the place of 5 other engineers because that's how effective I was. So my head was a little big, and I had to take a step back and go, you know what? I'm becoming one of them, the guys that I hated to work with. I designed this tool and I'm right and I know how it works and you messed it up. Then they wouldn't cooperate with me at all. So our delivery, our this, if we wish to show compassion, then we need to show it. Not just think it, but we need to show compassion. So for anybody who wants to, and I mean, it's not just about the YouTube videos, but I mean, it's about when we have conversations with other people. Check yourself at the door. It's like, well, wait a minute now. I really don't, I mean, I'm to the point where I really don't care if somebody says, Dave, you're fried, and your information isn't any good to me. Okay, fine. Then my message didn't have anything to do with you. Understood. But at the same time, I'm not selling anything. I'm not trying to convince you. I am trying to show you a different point of view and how you could look at your own life, at your own self, and say, well, maybe I am being a little too gruff. And before I actually get my point across, I've already turned the person off who I wish to speak with. So if we, quote, judge ourselves on this particular issue, if we look at ourselves and go, wait a minute, maybe my delivery sucks. Maybe my compassion isn't showing through. You're in Nevada, Miss Sassy. I'm in Southwest Georgia, about 60 miles north of Tallahassee by the crow flies. Attraction rather than promotion. No need to promote truth. Yep, I'm in Georgia, Southwest Georgia. Yep. I've got friends in Nevada, by the way. Of course, they won't speak to me anymore, but because I told them that they needed to get off the religious stuff and stick with the spiritual, but I digress. There are different people who use that word, I digress, and it somehow it's a slight joke in the back of my head. But when we meet people, when we speak to people, and as an actor and having had all the effectiveness as an actor with other people, yes, the Bible has been corrupted, Miss Sassy. You're next to Death Valley. I've been through there, well, on the Nevada side, but anyway, yeah, it's flat through there. What is that, Highway 91 or 95 that goes from Reno south? Anyway, Albany, Georgia. Albany, Georgia is north of me. Rainbow, you grew up in Albany, Georgia? Oh my goodness, is that what I mean? Okay, it's 95. I knew it was a 90 something. Anyway, we came across when I was out west, we came across through Yosemite, which is on fire now. Oh my gosh. And crossed into Reno, and then there's really only one road south into Las Vegas. Not far from you. Where are you, Rainbow? Wait a minute, are you in Indiana, Rainbow? Or do I have the wrong person? Anyway. When we meet other people face to face, our body language means a lot. But also the first few words out of our mouth means a lot. Indiana. That's what I thought. Interesting, though, that you spent 5 years down here in South Georgia. And Albany, well, Albany had a good chance of being a really good city. And it's not a bad town, but There's some weird folk run that place, I tell you what. Anyway, but there's some good people around there. I mean, hands down, there's some good people around there. But that work at the Marine base and things like that. But anyway, yep, yep. So I would suggest to folks that if you're not reaching family members or other people, thank you, Miss Sassy, you're good people as well. Check and see if maybe what's coming out of your mouth is in the wrong tone or whatever. And it might be that you want to talk to Uncle George, for example. And Uncle George is always snide remarks. He's snarky all the time, blah, blah, blah. But so when you go over to talk to Uncle George, do you start out being snarky to him because that's the kind of person he is? So, you know, we react to people a lot of times, especially if we know them, because we know that they're going to be snarky or a butthole or whatever the thing is. So we automatically go over to them with that in our head. Now, what I mean, going back to, you know, leaving this thing behind the stage, is that when you go over to talk with Uncle George now, you need to leave that ego, whatever he did to you before, thingy behind you, and approach Uncle George with maybe a different point of view, a different tone of voice, a hi, how you doing? And maybe you stay off the topics that he really wants to chew your ass out about. And so if you do these things, you really want to get to him, you want to change his opinion, do exactly the opposite of what he thinks is going to happen. And then all of a sudden you get their attention. They go, what? I mean, I had a gentleman who was older than me on stage, and I'm trying to get this gentleman to understand. And it was during a play, and we had on one side of the stage was a revolving set, and it flipped, was on rollers, flipped around, really simple. But this person had to come out and be ready for the next scene, and he was coming out too soon. And so every time I tried to explain to him, he's, well, they hit me with the roundabout. They hit me with during the scene change. And I'm like, but George, stand back. All you have to do is stand back over here until they're done. There's plenty of time for you to take 5 steps forward and be at the door. You don't have to be standing at the door knowing you're probably going to get hit, because the tolerances were so close where this thing had to go by. And so, and it was like, I got to the point where I was literally screaming at this man, why aren't you paying attention to me? You're bitching at me because you got hit by the set, but you're still standing in the same place. What the hell's wrong with you? That didn't do a damn bit of good. It just made him more mad. And then he walked off the set, and he didn't come back for 2 days. And then I went, oh, shit. I let him get to me. So then I called him up on the phone. And then I asked him to meet me for coffee at my expense, even though I was poor. And I asked for him to please understand. I asked him if he could come down in the afternoon before rehearsals and take a look at the stage. I did all these little, hey, look, you know, I lost my temper the other night. Even though he was at fault, I took it upon myself to be the bad guy. And somewhere in there, he went, you know what? I didn't get what you meant by stand back behind this line and that I would have plenty of time. He said, I thought you meant I had to be. And I was like, yes, after the scene change. Wait till these 2 ladies spin this big roundabout thing, you know, and it only takes 30 seconds, but you'll have 2 minutes after they do that, because we have to change the table off the stage. And so when he understood the rest of the mechanics of what was going on, His part was very small, but he wanted to do the best job that he could. So therefore, he was putting himself in jeopardy to try to please me because he thought that's what I wanted. And when I kept telling him, no, step back, wait, wait. But I had to be the better man. I didn't have to. He could have walked off and we'd have been, we would have needed another person for that character. Oh my God. 10 days before we open? Are you kidding me? So, but when I said, look, it must be my fault because you still don't understand. Well, and I was like, look, I'm agreeing with you. I'm the one at fault. You got hit because you were standing there because you thought that's what you were supposed to do. And I want to show you why this is this. And I want to let you know, I'm sorry if you misunderstood me. I'm sorry if I wasn't plain enough in my description or my discussion. And so I took it upon myself because there was some fault in there on my part, but his was much greater than my fault. That's not the point. My intent was to get him back. My intent was to get him to understand the importance of why he should step back. And not that he was, you know, and by the end of that evening, we shook hands. He became my buddy. He was like, I'm so sorry I hollered at you. And he said, people said that you were hard to work with. And now I understand that they just did not understand your point of view. And I was like, people are saying that I'm hard to work with, but they've never worked with me. So how can they make that statement? And how, if I'm hard to work with, why would I come up to you and apologize? If I was hard to work with, I'd tell you to go to hell and get off my stage, which is really what I wanted to do. But at the same point, I was like, this is community theater. And this guy's, you know, wait, back up. So I had to take the high road, which to many folks would say, I cowered down to him. I lowered myself below his level, but I knew what I was doing. I knew what my intent was. My intent was, regardless, self-flagellation, it's all my fault. Who cares? Because my purpose was to put on a good show, a good community theater program. Good night, sweet dreams. I'm so stinking happy tonight. Something in the air? Absolutely. Hugs all around. And I'm almost done with this too myself. But thanks, Miss Sassy. Blessings to you. Blessings to everybody. I'm not even stoned. You know what? Me neither. You know? And I got my little bowl sitting here. It's even got something in it. And I haven't had anything to smoke this afternoon. But to the point. Love is in the air. The heart of the lion is full of joy and rapture. Absolutely. Good night, sweet dreams. Yes. But to my point, to finish up this story, is that there are people who think that their self-importance is so important that they can't look at the big picture. So it's like I say, meaning one of the stuck gurus. The stuck guru says, I'm still so important right now. And what I do doesn't matter because I am self-important. And I take it like this. I'm so self-important that I have to say, you know what? I could be wrong about this, but I would like for you to listen. I could be wrong about that, but I would like for you to listen. I could very well be wrong with the whole spiel, but let's have a conversation. So when we do these things and we open up the dialogue, I made friends where there were enemies before, and I didn't even know why they were enemies. It was because of hearsay from someone else. But I had to prove that I was strong enough to say, okay, if you want to be that way, get the hell off my stage, and also be man enough and whatever to be able to go back and say, you know what? I was probably wrong here, and I was probably wrong there, and I was probably wrong here. I'm under a lot of tension, and would you please, let's go back through this again. Can we reconcile this? And there's only been one time that I haven't been able to reconcile a really nasty kind of situation. So it's like, The stuck guru is no guru at all. And ego run. Absolutely. Very good, Miss Rainbow. So I had to release my ego. And trust me, I went home and threw things at the barn door kind of thing. Because I was like, and then once I got the anger out, it was, now this has been 15 years ago, so it's been a while. But to the point though, I looked at it and said, wait a minute. He was reacting to my overreaction. He was reacting to he thought was my own self-importance. He was reacting to what he thought was my ego coming out. Then partially that was true. I mean, you got to have enough self-confidence to tell your actors, hey, that looks like crap. Please turn a little bit towards the audience, keep your back away from the audience, always try, whatever it is, whatever the note was, whatever the critique was. And I would always allow them to finish unless it was so gross, I wouldn't stop them in the middle of their rehearsal. I might let them go down a couple pages and say, okay, we're going to take a break here. We need to go back over this. But I wouldn't stop a person right in the middle of a soliloquy or say, that was stupid. I wouldn't do that. I never did. But to the point, though, there were those people who said, I gave up my self-respect to grovel at the feet of this minor actor in a community theater production when I should have told him to hit the skids, and that should have been my decision. And I think there's redemption in all kinds of things if we seek it. So he was an example of how I needed to go in and speak to George on a totally different level. And I went into meditation for almost 2 days before I could even bring it up. And then when I did, I made sure that my body language was cool. I made sure that my tone of voice was calm. I made sure that he and I met under a different term versus having 20 people in the theater and costumes and this and directing and lines going on. And I'm trying to get people to stand in the right place. So it's like when I did do that, and I've done it several times, and every time I've been successful except one person. And this one person just had a vendetta against me, period. There was no fixing it. And she was the reason for a lot of other people like George who thought I was difficult to work with. So anyway, we can salvage anything if we don't, let's see. How do I frame this into a little? I live with this chasing his own tail, trying to get reaction out of me, but I know it's fruitless to try to talk because he's wanting a nasty reaction. I'm simply done. Yep. Had to learn about him before I could stop reacting. I didn't understand his writing. I understand it now. Now I don't even get upset. Feels good to be free. Absolutely, Miss Sassy. Absolutely. And well, I don't want to go into another long soliloquy thing, but here, when I got put in jail for a year for conspiracy to sell some really hard MDA narcotics. I had a monkey on my back, I'm telling you. I wasn't shooting it up, but there was $1,000 going up my nose every other day, at least. But but when I spent my time in jail, there were those hardliners in jail, and they, what, you're going to become a trustee and suck up to the man? And I was like, so you would rather be locked up in a small cell with 15 other guys at each other's throats at all times, 24/7, and you would rather say, but I'm going to stay here in this cell with all these idiots because my ego says I'm not going to suck up to the man and become a trustee. I didn't suck up to anybody, but I did become a trustee. I swept floors. I cleaned the kitchen. I got extra meals. I gained 20 pounds when I was in jail. I had the best meals. I learned how to bake and cook and because I sold out to the man, because I became a trustee in the kitchen. And by becoming a trustee in the kitchen, I found out that the sergeant over the kitchen was a South Georgia boy. He lived at the time like 15 miles. You know, he grew up 15 miles from where I was living at the time. His relatives, I bought pot from one of his nephews. I mean, it was like, but to the point though, I didn't suck up to him. I gave him the respect that he deserved. I honored his position. And by doing so, and by just simply being respectful, like, yes, sir, boss. Yes, sir, boss. Yes, sir. People are like, you're calling him boss? Well, yeah, that's the best way to do this. Yes, sir, boss. Yes, sir, boss, man. Mm-hmm. Now, me and this little Mexican Joe, I'll never forget little Joe. He's from West Dallas. And like 5 foot, maybe, but he was a holy terror, but a very good friend of mine while I was in jail. And me and little Joe would have these discussions. Oh, the Chargers does well. Oh, Rainbow, you're going, huh? But anyway, I had to drop my ego and say, listen, I would rather get what few benefits I have, which is freedom to walk around. Even though I'm still inside a building, I can walk the halls. I get to go up and down the stairs. I have freedom of motion. If I'm locked in a cell, then that's just, I don't get to go anywhere. I get to get gang raped and beat up and almost whatever. Yeah, okay. Now, am I going to go suck up to a guard and say, yes, sir, boss man, so I can roam around the jail? So I can go in the deep freeze and cut me out a filet mignon and put it in the oven and cook it with onions and tomatoes and oh, yeah. So some people say I sold out. But did I? I let my ego down, but I kept my own self-importance. I knew who David was. I knew who my core value was, and that was to respect your authority figure. Some of them were really nasty authority figures, and it was really hard to swallow your tongue or, you know, keep your mouth shut. And I got busted to population one time because of it. But to the point, though, they got me out of population in 3 days, which was never been done before. And then they also put me into place. So good night, Rainbow, and good night, Sassy. But to the point, we don't have to sell ourselves out. But there are times when we have to drop our ego so that we can communicate what's necessary to other people. There you go. So, Phoenix, adios, Miss Sassy. I don't know who else is on. I've got to go. I've been sitting in this position too long. I mean, not you, not a sellout. Yep, I didn't sell out. But at the same time, I also respected the man. And it's like there were those who said, you know, selling out. But little Mexican Joe was like, you know, he said, I've been in jail in Texas. I've been to I can't remember the prison, but anyway, a bad one. And he was like, best thing to do. He called me David. David, best thing to do. Say, yes, sir, boss man. Yes, sir, boss man. You don't have to like it. You don't have to love him. You don't have to even, you know, care. But you got to say, yes, sir, boss man. Otherwise, you're gonna get kicked. And he was right. Just say, yes, sir, boss man. And it was like the magic words. Yes, sir, boss man. No, sir, boss man. Whatever it was. If you threw that boss man in there, was it a sellout? No, but it was the right words to use in a circumstance. Other people looking in would say, you sold out. You gave up. You gave it. Nah. You have to look at it from the inside, from our perspective. We didn't sell out, because to sell out would have mean to literally drop your drawers and sell out. That never happened. So anyway, we do have self-importance, but it's only for us. We can share that with compassion. We can share that when we understand what our purpose is and also what our intent is. So you all are absolutely wonderful, fantastic, great, big, giant hugs. I love you too. I love everyone. I'm so happy. And I will see you on the other side. We're going to see each other on the other side anyway, but you understand what I mean, Miss Sassy Susie. We're going to see each other on the other side anyway. I meet you in the dream world, and we've got 4 hours here on the eastern side of the world, and I'm so wise. Thank you, Miss Rainbow. I've you know I've taken everything in my life and I look at it and go, what makes an idiot or what makes a crazy person or somebody insane? What makes them insane is they keep trying to do the same damn thing over again with the same results. I did something stupid and I looked at it and said, nah, ain't going to go that way again. So can we learn from our mistakes? Yeah, if you pay attention, if you want to, and that's a self choice, or we can just go along with the rest of the crowd and just ignore it and become, and be the sheep that a lot of people are. But those of us who are awake, because we are awake and because we understand these things, simply with our consciousness, simply with you and I sitting here right now, the 6 viewers that it says here, it's like us 6 people. When more than 2 gather in my name, we shall have, exponential powers, etc. So, positive thought. I know you're all are on it. Thank you so much. Thank you. We do the opposite that the world does. Right. Well, yeah, what the big majority of the world does. Absolutely. Keep trying to do something over and over and over and over and forever and you go crazy. Exactly. Especially if you don't change it up. I mean, it's like there were some people who in theater, there were times when, some directors, like, they would chastise you if you missed a word in your soliloquy, or if during your conversation as in your character you rephrase something or something like that. And I mean, I used to get my ass chewed out on a regular basis. But then there were people who said, I saw your performance on Friday night and came back for the matinee on Sunday, and I don't know what you did, but the Sunday performance, it was better than the Friday performance. And I thought your Friday performance was great. What did you do? And the thing is that I would simply change up a little bit in my delivery, because there were people who would bring a family member back to watch a show or something. And so I didn't want it to be the same every time. So I would change a little tone of voice. Sometimes I would paraphrase something. Drove the directors crazy, but I never missed a cue line. And there were lots of times when I knew the other person's lines and would feed them to them on stage. Anyway, but so there are those times, though, when we must look at our own ego. And would you say, as a closing comment, Jesus knew who he was, and he stepped out of that boat and onto the water, and he asked Peter, come join me. Peter didn't understand. Peter didn't have the faith, but Christ did. But did he belittle them? No, he said, why don't you trust me? I'm showing you this. But did he chastise them? Did he beat them up? Did he say, you are a bunch of stupid apostles and you're never going to get anywhere? No, he was compassionate with them because he knew they didn't understand. So some people would say, well, Jesus lowered himself so that he could speak with Peter. Did Jesus lower himself? Did he lower his standards, or did he lower his explanation? Did he remove his own ego to speak with someone who didn't understand? So it's like, he had an effect, but he was the Son of God. He didn't have to, Peter, so drowned. I mean, he didn't have to show him this. So was Christ, his ego, such that He knew who he was. He knew his self-importance. He knew what his purpose was. And he used his intent. Exactly, Sassy Sue. He tried to show them how awesome they were. He met them where they were at that time. Exactly. So to my point, and you're making my point, is that Jesus didn't stoop down to anything, but he did lower how he discussed it with them. He changed his tone of voice. He changed how he explained it. But did Jesus lower himself? No. So that use that as an example. So if you say, well, this person's an asshole to me all the time, and, and I just treat him the same way, but then you've missed the point. To be more Christ-like in that situation is let them chew out whatever they want to. In that respect, so what? But are you getting your point across without hollering, screaming, calling names, or whatever? Because you don't have to stoop down to their level, but you do need to lower your vocabulary and your ego enough to allow these things to be spoken. If someone sees you, hello, Mary Wins. So those people who are so full of themselves, that ego shines forward and people can see it. So they're not going to listen to you like that. They're not going to pay any bit of attention to you like that because their ego is being forced out. So it's like, they're not going to listen to you because they see your ego first. But when you drop that ego and you say, look, I'm sorry. I must have said something wrong there. When you defuse a situation, now are you being less than who you really are? Or are you actually being more Christ conscious in that all people deserve another chance? You don't know what this person's been through or what. And even if you did, should you treat them in that way? So, but when we follow the basics, compassion, honesty, respect, oh my gosh, honoring one another, integrity. When we those 5 things, if we just stick to that plan with any situation that we're in, do it with integrity. When you meet someone else, meet them with honor. Don't meet you're a dickhead. I don't have to listen to you. You're not going to get anywhere. So those of us, when we spread this message, just take a look. I'm not saying any one of you is doing anything wrong. That's not my point. But if we do wish to reach other people, how we reach them is very important. How we speak to them. What are our actions? Do we use our hands? Are we doing something with our face? Are we scrunching ourselves? What are we doing? And is it that we are actually bad? Have we done anything wrong? Sassy, you're right. Someone gave me a second and a third and a fourth chance. I better do the same. It was done for me. It just feels fair and right. I've made so many mistakes in my lifetime. Now, to me, they were big mistakes. But if you look at them in the grand scheme of things, they're really petty. But they were big in my world because I should have known better or whatever. So it was big in my world. And you're having connection issues? Sorry about that, Miss Mary. But to that point, how many times has Creator forgiven me for my stupid mistakes? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And my Mother Mary messages. I mean, she should have disowned me a long time ago. And she still visits. She's still there. The connection is stronger than ever. And when I thought, you know what? I'm not worth it. I'm useless. I don't have a purpose anymore. I'm just useless meat bag. And it's like, Wait a minute. Who told me I wasn't any good? The church. Religion told me I wasn't any good because I didn't go to mass enough. Religion told me that I was a sinner. Religion told me, wait a minute, hang on a second. But now what did Creator tell me? Creator told me that I was a supreme being, that I am a spirit, that I am God-like in that I am a spirit being in here in this meat sack. That's important. So regardless of what I could physically do, whether or not I could go out and do puppet shows, I'm doing this because I still have a purpose. And my intent is to help other folk. So see, we're not useless. It's our choice to be useless. It's our choice to grovel in the dirt. It's our choice to, forget about whether or not we have an intent or purpose to life, or who gives a shit, Okay. And what about the self-importance thing? Am I so important that you all don't matter? I see some of that in some of the folks that I graduated high school from, and they have become so self-important, and they got some bucks to do it too. But it's like they are so far off the path, and I still love them, and I still care, but I like, where did you folks go wrong? What, you went down this other path, and that path, you are who you are. And I'm not going to condemn you for it, but do you think you're going to heaven in the same rowboat I'm going in? I don't know. I don't think so, because you don't give a crap about anybody else but you, yourself, and me, myself, and I, as the explanation goes. So it's like, so we are important, but do we project it so much that our ego shows through and that folks aren't listening because of that? Are they not paying attention to us because we're too much that way? Just a question. I know it was true for me. Absolutely. And I was like, I really want these people to get, I want to train them. I want them to understand how important this is. So I had to take a different approach. I had to look at it from a totally different point of view. I had to step outside of Dave, my own self-importance as an engineer, my own self-ego that but then again, as soon as I realized that my ego wasn't important in this, my self-importance wasn't in this particular instance. What was more important was the training that they learned, that I spoke respectfully to them, that I didn't speak down to them. Oh my God, that was a biggie. So, time to go. It's 1:30. I got to go prep for my 5 o'clock meditation. And I'm not going to promise, but I might come on early this morning and do a follow-up with the meditation thing. But anyway, Miss Mary, I'm sorry you got here late. It's early in the morning here. It's 1:31, and Dave's got to go to bathroom check and haven't had any supper. I don't remember the last time I ate, actually, so got to go take care of some personal business here. But I hope that this made some sense, and that I wasn't too boring and repeated myself. So, prayer before we go. I accept and receive all of the healing and all of the wisdom being downloaded from the cosmos. I accept and receive the prayers and the blessings from my fellow human beings on this planet. I accept and receive all the glorious love, all the compassion, all the true friendship that people are exploring and sharing now. I pray that more people will hear this prayer and that they will accept the history, the teachings, and the healing from the cosmos. I'm hoping that everyone will understand that they are more than just a meat bag sack, and that there are greater things that each one of us can achieve that goes beyond this physical plane. I accept and receive all these things, and I accept and receive your love and your compassion. So, and I hope that you will receive mine and that you have. So, with that love, with that said, with a big giant cosmic hug, this is Mr. Dave saying adios for now. I'll be back later. And Rainbow, if I don't catch you on your show tomorrow evening, you I gave you some tips tonight. I hope you were listening. Not that they were necessarily meant for you, but to help you. Yep, 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 yep. That's what she means. And so I'm excited for you too, Rainbow. And not that you do anything wrong, that's not it. I was just giving some tips like I would give to anyone who's going to have a first time anything. And because I love you, I do. And I, I know you were listening. I do. And I know that you, even, it wasn't directed at you, it was directed, but I did speak these things because you will be doing it. So yes, to that point. But I wasn't, there was nothing I was like, oh, but this is something that Phoenix needs to, you know, nah, it wasn't that. It's tips and tricks to make sure that your message gets across. I'd give this information out to anybody, actually. But I love you too, Miss Rainbow Phoenix and Mary and everybody else. I do. Huge hugs, huge hugs. And man, I can't wait for this Lionsgate thing. I can feel it now. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. There's going to be a few weird things in there, but hey, we put up with this much weirdness. What's a little more? So love, honor, respect. I love you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Have a rest of the good morning, evening. And Miss Mary, I'm sorry you got here on the late side, but blessings to you as well. And I hope that if you listen to this, it will be as much fun you got in at the tail end of this. So, but anyway, love and honor